Olivia Mason stared at her reflection in the mirror and sighed. The blue dress she had found at the thrift store looked nice enough, but it clearly wasn't meant for a fancy charity banquet. She smoothed down the slightly wrinkled fabric and tried to calm her nerves. When her cousin Heather called yesterday saying her friend was sick and she needed someone to fill the empty seat at her table, Olivia had reluctantly agreed. Now she was having second thoughts. "It's just one night," Olivia told herself quietly. "Just smile, be polite, and try not to knock anything over." At 24, Olivia was comfortable with her simple life. She loved her job as an assistant librarian, lived in a tiny but cozy apartment, and spent most evenings reading or watching old movies. The idea of mingling with New York's elite made her stomach twist into knots. The taxi dropped her off in front of the Grand Plaza Hotel. Olivia paid the driver and stepped out, immediately feeling out of place among the women in designer gowns and sparkling jewelry. She clutched her small purse tighter and walked toward the entrance, trying to look like she belonged. "Olivia, finally!" Heather's voice cut through the crowd. Her cousin looked stunning in a red dress that probably cost more than Olivia's monthly rent. "I was worried you'd back out." "I promised I'd come," Olivia said with a small smile. Heather linked arms with her and led her inside. "Just try not to talk about books all night, okay? And remember, there are some very important people here tonight." The ballroom was magnificent. Crystal chandeliers hung from the ceiling, casting a warm glow over the hundreds of guests in formal attire. Tables, covered in white cloth, surrounded a dance floor, and waiters moved skillfully through the crowd with trays of champagne. "Come meet my friends," Heather said, pulling Olivia toward a group of beautiful women near the bar. Olivia tried to remember all their names as they were introduced, but they blurred together. Kelly, Madison, Amber. They all looked at her, with the same polite but dismissive smile. "So, what do you do?" one of them asked after an awkward silence. "I work at the public library on 5th Street, Olivia replied. "Oh, how quaint," the woman said, exchanging glances with the others. "I didn't know libraries still existed with everything being digital now." Olivia started to explain the importance of public libraries in communities, but Heather cut her off. "Let's get some drinks." As the evening progressed, Olivia felt increasingly uncomfortable. Heather's friends made little effort to include her in their conversations, occasionally making comments about her dress or her job that were thinly veiled insults. "Did you get that dress on sale somewhere?" Madison asked, eyeing Olivia's outfit. "It's so unique." "It's actually from a thrift store," Olivia answered honestly, which made the women exchange knowing looks. "Well, it's very economical of you," Kelly said with a fake smile. When dinner was announced, Olivia was relieved for the distraction. Maybe focusing on the food would make the evening pass faster. But as they moved to their assigned table, things only got worse. "So, Olivia, Heather tells us you're quite the bookworm," Amber said as they settled into their seats. "Do you ever do anything fun?" "Reading is fun for me," Olivia replied, feeling her cheeks grow warm. The women laughed as if she had told a joke. "That's adorable," Madison said, patting Olivia's hand like she was a child. Throughout the meal, they continued to make comments that made Olivia sink lower in her seat. They asked if she had ever been to any of the exclusive clubs they frequented, knowing she hadn't. They talked about their recent shopping trips to Paris and Milan, glancing at Olivia's thrift store dress. When Olivia tried to join the conversation by mentioning a book she had read about French culture, they quickly changed the subject. "Excuse me," Olivia said quietly after finishing her dessert. "I need some air." She walked away from the table, blinking back tears. She didn't belong here, and Heather's friends were making sure she knew it. Olivia found a door leading to a small balcony and stepped outside. The cool night air felt good against her flushed face. "Don't let them see you cry," she whispered to herself, taking deep breaths. "Just a few more hours and then you can go home." Lost in her thoughts, Olivia didn't notice someone else coming onto the balcony until she turned and bumped right into him stepping on his polished shoe. "I'm so sorry," she gasped, mortified. The man standing before her was tall and imposing in a perfectly tailored black suit. He had dark hair, sharp cheekbones, and intense gray eyes that were now studying her with curiosity. Something about him seemed familiar, but Olivia couldn't place where she might have seen him before. "No harm done?" he said, his voice deep and smooth. "Are you all right? You seem upset." Olivia tucked a strand of hair behind her ear nervously. "I'm fine, just needed some fresh air." He didn't look convinced. "I'm Ethan Gray," he said, extending his hand. The name hit Olivia like a bucket of cold water. Ethan Gray. The Ethan Gray, CEO of Gray Enterprises, one of the largest companies in the country. His face was often in business magazines and news, programs usually accompanied by headlines about his ruthless business tactics and cold demeanor. He was known as the Gray Wolf of Wall Street for his predatory approach to acquisitions. "I'm Olivia Mason," she replied, shaking his hand briefly. "I should probably get back inside." "Wait," he said as she turned to leave. "You still haven't told me why you're upset." Olivia was surprised by his persistence. From what she had read, Ethan Gray wasn't known for caring about other people's feelings. "It's nothing important," she said. "I just don't really fit in with this crowd." Before Ethan could respond, the balcony door opened and Madison stepped out. "Oh, there you are, Olivia. Heather was—" Madison stopped short when she noticed Ethan. Her entire demeanor changed instantly. "Mr. Gray, I didn't realize you were out here." Ethan's expression cooled noticeably. "We were having a private conversation." Madison flushed. "Of course I'm sorry. Olivia, we were just wondering where you disappeared to." Her eyes darted between them, clearly curious about how Olivia had ended up alone with Ethan Gray. "She was getting some air," Ethan said before Olivia could answer. "Would you mind giving us a few more minutes?" Madison looked shocked but nodded quickly. "Of course, Mr. Gray." She gave Olivia a strange look before returning inside. "You didn't have to do that," Olivia said once they were alone again. "From the look on your face when she appeared, I think I did," Ethan replied. "Are those the people making you feel like you don't belong?" Olivia didn't know how to respond. Why would someone like Ethan Gray care about her problems? "They're my cousin's friends," she finally said. "I'm just here as a last-minute replacement." "Then your cousin's friends lack basic manners," Ethan said. His directness surprised Olivia. "Shall we go back inside? I could use some company that isn't trying to pitch me business ideas or ask for investments." Before Olivia could protest, Ethan offered his arm. Feeling like she was in some strange dream, she placed her hand on his sleeve and they walked back into the ballroom together. The reaction was immediate. Heads turned as they entered. Whispers spread through the crowd. Olivia could see Heather and her friends staring with open mouths. "Mr. Gray," a waiter approached them promptly. "Your table is ready whenever you wish to be seated." "Thank you," Ethan replied. "Miss Mason will be joining me." Olivia's eyes widened. "But I'm supposed to sit with my cousin. Do you want to?" Ethan asked quietly so only she could hear. Olivia thought about the snide comments and fake smiles she would have to endure for the rest of the evening. "No," she admitted. "Then it's settled," Ethan said, guiding her toward his table. As they walked across the room, Olivia caught snippets of whispered conversations. "Who is she? Why is he with her? That's not his usual type." For the first time that evening, Olivia smiled genuinely. Maybe this strange night was about to get interesting, after all. Olivia woke up the next morning wondering if she had dreamed the entire evening. She rolled over in bed and grabbed her phone, wincing when she saw 12 missed calls from Heather. There were also several text messages from her cousin, ranging from confused to angry. "Call me now. Why were you sitting with Ethan Gray? Everyone is talking about you. What did you say to him? Olivia, I swear if you don't call me back." She put the phone down without responding. The memory of sitting at Ethan Gray's table still felt unreal. He had been surprisingly easy to talk to, asking her about her job at the library and actually listening to her answers. When she nervously rambled about her favorite books, he hadn't cut her off or looked bored. Instead, he had asked thoughtful questions that showed he was paying attention. Olivia got out of bed and made coffee, trying to push last night out of her mind. It was a one-time thing. Someone like Ethan Gray wouldn't give her a second thought after the banquet. She had work today, and that was what she needed to focus on. The small public library where Olivia worked was her favorite place in the world. She loved helping people find books, organizing the children's reading hour, and the peaceful quiet of the stacks. Today, though, her co-worker Ben noticed something was off. "You seem distracted," he said as they sorted returned books together. "Bad night?" "Strange night," Olivia corrected. "My cousin dragged me to this fancy charity thing." "That doesn't sound like your scene," Ben laughed. "It definitely wasn't," Olivia agreed, deciding not to mention her encounter with Ethan Gray. Who would believe her anyway? The morning passed quietly until Olivia's phone buzzed with a news alert. She nearly dropped the book she was holding when she saw the headline. "Gray Wolf with a new sheep? Ethan Gray spotted with mystery woman at charity gala." With shaking hands, she opened the article. There was a photo of her and Ethan walking together across the ballroom. The article was full of speculation about who she might be and why the notoriously cold CEO was paying attention to an ordinary-looking woman in an off-the-rack dress. "Oh no," Olivia whispered. "What's wrong?" Ben asked, looking over her shoulder. His eyes widened. Is that you with Ethan Gray? The Ethan Gray?" "It's not what it looks like," Olivia said quickly. "We just talked for a bit." Ben stared at her in disbelief. "Olivia, that man doesn't just talk to anyone. He once made a receptionist cry because she told him he needed an appointment." "He was actually very nice," Olivia defended, then blushed when Ben raised his eyebrows. "Well, whatever happened, you're famous now," Ben said, showing her his phone. The same photo was trending on social media, with people trying to identify the mystery woman who had captured Ethan Gray's attention. Olivia felt sick. This was exactly the kind of attention she hated. "I'm going to the back room to catalog the new arrivals," she said, needing to escape. For the rest of the day, Olivia hid in the quietest parts of the library, avoiding the front desk in case anyone recognized her from the photo. By closing time, she had convinced herself that the whole thing would blow over. Tomorrow, Ethan Gray would be photographed with some gorgeous model, and everyone would forget about the plain librarian he had briefly spoken to. The next morning, Olivia's phone rang just as she arrived at work. It was Heather. "Why aren't you answering my texts?" her cousin demanded. "Do you have any idea what's happening? Kelly saw your picture on 3 different gossip sites." "I'm sorry, I've been busy," Olivia said, trying to sound calm. "It's really not a big deal. We just talked." "Not a big deal?" Heather sounded hysterical. "Ethan Gray doesn't talk to anybody. Madison said he's turned down supermodels and actresses. What did you do to get his attention?" "Nothing," Olivia insisted. "I was just myself." Heather made a frustrated noise. "Well, his people have been calling. People from the gala asking about you. This is crazy, Olivia." After hanging up, Olivia tried to focus on her work, but Heather's words kept repeating in her mind. Why would Ethan be asking about her? It didn't make sense. Around noon, a delivery truck pulled up outside the library. The driver brought in a large wooden crate addressed to Olivia. "What is this?" she asked, confused. "No idea, ma'am. Just delivering." The man said, handing her a clipboard to sign. Ben helped her open the crate. Inside were 6 beautiful leather-bound books. Olivia gasped when she realized what they were, first editions of her favorite classics, including Pride and Prejudice and Jane Eyre, books that would cost thousands of dollars each. A small envelope sat on top of the books. With trembling fingers, Olivia opened it and read the handwritten note inside. Olivia, I enjoyed our conversation about these books. I thought you might appreciate them more than anyone else I know. Would you consider having dinner with me on Friday? Ethan Gray. His phone number was written at the bottom of the note. Holy, Ben whispered, reading the note over her shoulder. Are those real first editions? Olivia nodded, too shocked to speak. You have to call him, Ben insisted. I can't, Olivia said, finding her voice. This is crazy. Why would he be interested in me? Why don't you ask him and find out? Ben suggested. picking up her phone and holding it out to her. Olivia stared at the phone. This felt like one of the romance novels she loved to read. Things like this didn't happen in real life, and especially not to people like her. The library door opened, and Mrs. Peterson, the head librarian, walked in. She stopped when she saw the open crate. "What's all this?" she asked. "Olivia has a secret admirer," Ben said with a grin. "Ethan Gray." Mrs. Peterson's eyes widened. "The businessman? The one they call the Gray Wolf?" Olivia nodded miserably. "Well," Mrs. Peterson said, straightening her glasses, "I suppose we should make space for these valuable books in the special collection room." "But they're for me," Olivia said. "Personally, I mean." Mrs. Peterson looked shocked. "These must be worth, well, a small fortune." "I know," Olivia whispered. "I don't understand why he would send them to me." Before anyone could respond, the library phone rang. Mrs. Peterson answered it, then looked at Olivia with wide eyes. "It's for you," she said. "It's Ethan Gray's assistant." The library suddenly felt very quiet. Olivia took the phone with a shaking hand. "Hello? Miss Mason?" A crisp female voice said. "I'm calling on behalf of Mr. Gray. He wanted to know if you received his gift." "Yes, I did," Olivia replied. They're too much. I can't accept them." There was a pause. "Mr. Gray anticipated." "You might say that. He asks that you at least consider them on loan to you personally, from his private collection." "Oh," Olivia said, not knowing how to respond. Please thank him for me." "Also, regarding dinner on Friday?" "I haven't decided about that yet." Olivia cut in. Another pause. "I understand. However, Mr. Gray has asked me to clear his schedule for Friday evening just in case. He rarely does that for anyone, Miss Mason." After hanging up, Olivia leaned against the desk trying to process what was happening. Ben and Mrs. Peterson were staring at her. "Did that really just happen?" Ben asked. Olivia nodded slowly. The phone, in her hand, buzzed with a text message from an unknown number. "I hope you like the books. They reminded me of you. Valuable but often overlooked by those who don't know what they're looking at. Ethan." Olivia read the message 3 times, a warm feeling spreading through her chest. Maybe, just maybe, this wasn't a dream or a mistake after all. The library door opened again and Olivia looked up, expecting to see a patron. Instead, Ethan Gray himself stood in the doorway, looking somewhat out of place in his expensive suit, among the worn library shelves. When his eyes found Olivia, his serious expression softened into a smile. "I was in the neighborhood," he said simply, "and I wanted to ask you about dinner in person." Olivia stared at her closet in despair. Nothing she owned seemed right for a date with Ethan Gray. After he had appeared at the library 3 days ago, she had finally agreed to have dinner with him. Now it was Friday evening, and she was regretting her decision. "This is a mistake," she muttered to herself, pulling out a simple black dress she had worn to her college graduation. It was the nicest thing she owned, but it felt woefully inadequate for whatever fancy restaurant Ethan would take her to. Her phone buzzed with a text from Ben. "Good luck tonight. Don't forget to tell me everything tomorrow." Olivia smiled despite her nerves. Ben had been incredibly supportive, helping her deal with the stares and whispers from library patrons who had recognized her from the photos online. Some people had even come to the library specifically to see Ethan Gray's new girlfriend, which made Olivia want to hide in the back room forever. At exactly 7 o'clock, her doorbell rang. Olivia took a deep breath, smoothed her dress, and opened the door. Ethan stood there in a dark suit that probably cost more than her rent for a year. Even in her building's dim hallway, he looked like he had stepped out of a magazine cover. "You look beautiful," he said, his eyes taking in her simple dress. "Thank you," Olivia replied, feeling her cheeks grow warm. "I'm afraid I don't have anything fancy to wear." "You don't need fancy clothes," Ethan said. "You look perfect as you are." He offered her his arm, and she took it, trying to ignore the butterflies in her stomach. Outside, a sleek black car waited for them. The driver opened the door and Olivia slid into the soft leather seat, feeling completely out of place. "I thought we'd go to La Maison tonight," Ethan said as the car pulled away from the curb. "They have excellent food." Olivia's eyes widened. La Maison was one of the most exclusive restaurants in the city, the kind of place where celebrities and billionaires dined. "That sounds nice," she said weakly. The car stopped in front of a beautiful old building with a discreet sign. Photographers were waiting outside and Olivia froze when she saw them. "Ignore them," Ethan said quietly, putting his hand on the small of her back. "Just keep walking and look straight ahead." Camera flashes went off as they walked to the entrance. Olivia heard people calling Ethan's name, asking who she was, but he guided her inside without acknowledging them. The restaurant was even more intimidating than Olivia had imagined. Crystal chandeliers hung from the ceiling, casting a warm glow over tables covered with fine linen. The maitre d' greeted Ethan by name and led them to a private table in a corner. "Mr. Gray, your usual table," he said with a slight bow. "Would you like to see the wine list?" "Yes, thank you," Ethan replied. He looked at Olivia. "Do you have any preferences for wine?" "I don't really know much about wine," Olivia admitted. The waiter handed them menus and Olivia felt another wave of panic. Everything was in French and there were no prices listed. She stared at the menu, trying to find something she recognized. "Would you like me to order for both of us?" Ethan asked, noticing her discomfort. Olivia nodded gratefully. "Yes, please," Ethan ordered in perfect French, and the waiter nodded approvingly before leaving them alone. "You speak French?" Olivia asked, impressed. "I spent some time in Paris, for business," Ethan said with a small smile. "It comes in handy sometimes." There was a moment of awkward silence. Olivia fidgeted with her napkin, not sure what to say. In the library, their conversation had flowed naturally, but here, surrounded by luxury, she felt tongue-tied. "Tell me more about your work," Ethan said, breaking the silence. "You mentioned a children's reading program?" Olivia's face lit up. "Yes, we just started it last month. It's for kids from the local shelter. Many of them have never had someone read to them before, and seeing their faces when they get lost in a story." She trailed off, realizing she was rambling. "Sorry, I get carried away sometimes." "Don't apologize," Ethan said. "It's refreshing to hear someone talk about something they genuinely care about. Most people I deal with only talk about money or status." As the first course arrived, Olivia relaxed a little. Ethan asked questions about her life, her family, her dreams for the future. He listened intently to her answers as if they were the most important things he had heard all day. "What about you?" Olivia asked eventually. "The articles I've read make you sound—" She hesitated. "Ruthless? Cold? A wolf in a suit?" Ethan suggested with a wry smile. "Well, yes," Olivia admitted. "But you don't seem like that to me." Ethan's expression grew serious. "The business world is cutthroat. I learned early on that showing kindness was seen as weakness. The persona I created kept people from trying to take advantage of me." "That sounds lonely," Olivia said softly. Ethan looked surprised, as if no one had ever said that to him before. "I suppose it is." Their main course arrived and Olivia nearly gasped at the beautiful presentation. She picked up her fork, then realized she wasn't sure which one to use. There were so many utensils laid out beside her plate. "Start from the outside and work your way in," Ethan said quietly, saving her from embarrassment. Olivia followed his advice, but as she took her first bite, she accidentally dropped a piece of food onto the white tablecloth. Her face burned with shame. "I'm so sorry," she whispered, mortified. To her surprise, Ethan smiled and deliberately knocked over his water glass, spilling it across the table. A waiter rushed over immediately. "My apologies," Ethan said smoothly. "How clumsy of me." As the waiter cleaned up the spill and replaced the tablecloth, Ethan winked at Olivia. She felt a rush of gratitude for his kindness. The rest of the dinner passed more comfortably. Olivia stopped worrying so much about making mistakes and started to enjoy herself. Ethan told her stories about his travels, and she shared funny anecdotes about library patrons. By the time dessert arrived, they were laughing together like old friends. As they left the restaurant, the photographers were still waiting. This time, Olivia didn't feel as intimidated. Ethan's hand on her back felt protective rather than guiding. "Would you like to go for a walk?" Ethan asked once they were in the car. "There's a nice park nearby." "I'd like that," Olivia replied. The park was quiet in the evening light. They walked side by side, their hands occasionally brushing. Olivia felt a strange mix of comfort and excitement in Ethan's presence. "I've enjoyed tonight," Ethan said, stopping by a small fountain. "More than any dinner I've had in years." "Even with my lack of fancy dinner skills?" Olivia asked with a small smile. "Especially because of that," Ethan said. "You're real, Olivia. Do you know how rare that is in my world?" Before she could respond, her phone rang. It was Heather. Olivia ignored it, but moments later it rang again. "You should answer it," Ethan said. "It might be important." Reluctantly, Olivia answered the phone. "Hello? Have you seen it?" Heather's voice was high-pitched with excitement. "You're trending online. There are pictures of you and Ethan Gray at La Maison. Madison is losing her mind." "I'm kinda busy right now, Heather," Olivia said, glancing at Ethan. "People are saying you must be sleeping with him to get his attention." Heather continued, ignoring Olivia's comment. "Or that it's some kind of publicity stunt. Is it true he bought you those expensive books?" Olivia felt sick. "I have to go," she said, hanging up abruptly. "What's wrong?" Ethan asked, noticing her expression. "Nothing," Olivia lied, not wanting to repeat Heather's cruel words. Ethan gently took her hand. "Olivia, talk to me." Looking into his concerned gray eyes, Olivia felt her resolve crumble. "People are saying awful things about why you're spending time with me. They think I must be using you somehow, or that you're using me for publicity." Ethan's expression darkened. "And what do you think?" "I don't know what to think," Olivia admitted. "This doesn't make sense. You could be with anyone. Why me?" Instead of answering, Ethan leaned forward and kissed her softly. Olivia felt the world stop for a moment, everything fading away except for the gentle pressure of his lips on hers. When he pulled back, his eyes were warm. "Does that answer your question?" 2 weeks had passed since Olivia and Ethan's first date, and her life had changed in ways she never imagined. They had seen each other almost every day, either for dinner, walks in the park, or quiet evenings at Ethan's penthouse apartment where they simply talked for hours. This morning, Olivia sat at her desk in the library trying to focus on cataloging new books. Her phone buzzed with a text message from Ethan. "Check your email. I have a surprise for you." Curious, Olivia opened her email and found a message from Ethan with 2 attached airline tickets to Paris. The subject line read, "A weekend with your favorite books?" Her heart raced as she read the message. "Remember how you told me you've always wanted to see the old bookshops of Paris? I have meetings there next weekend. Come with me? We can extend the trip for 2 extra days to explore the city." Olivia stared at the screen, stunned. Paris had always been her dream destination, but on her librarian's salary, it had seemed impossible. Now Ethan was offering to take her there like it was as simple as going to a local restaurant. "What's got you looking so shocked?" Ben asked, walking up to her desk. "Ethan wants to take me to Paris," Olivia said, still not quite believing it. Ben whistled. "The man certainly doesn't do things halfway, does he?" "I can't accept this," Olivia said, shaking her head. "It's too much." "Why not?" Ben asked. "He's a billionaire. For him, this is probably like me buying you a coffee." "That's the problem," Olivia sighed. "Everything is so easy for him. He can just snap his fingers and make things happen. I don't want to get used to that kind of life." "Would you rather date someone who can't afford to take you places you've always wanted to go?" Ben raised an eyebrow. "No, it's not that," Olivia tried to explain. "I just don't want him to think he needs to buy me things to make me happy." "Then, tell him that," Ben said simply. "But maybe accept the Paris trip first?" Olivia laughed despite herself. She picked up her phone and called Ethan instead of texting back. "Did you get my email?" Ethan asked when he answered. "Yes, and it's incredibly sweet, but before you say no, Ethan cut in. "This isn't just for you. I've been wanting to show you Paris. The city means a lot to me and I want to share it with you." Olivia hesitated. "Are you sure I won't be in the way of your meetings?" "Absolutely sure," Ethan said. "You could never be in the way." "Then yes," Olivia said, making up her mind. "I'd love to go to Paris with you." The weekend arrived quickly. Olivia had never flown first class before, and she couldn't help staring, wide-eyed at the spacious seats and attentive service. Ethan watched her reactions with an amused smile. "What?" she asked, catching his look. "I enjoy seeing things through your eyes," he said. "You appreciate everything so genuinely." In Paris, they stayed at a beautiful hotel with a view of the Eiffel Tower. While Ethan attended his meetings on the first day, Olivia explored nearby shops and cafes, soaking in the atmosphere of the city she had read about in so many books. That evening, Ethan took her to a small, elegant restaurant hidden on a quiet street. Unlike their first date, Olivia felt more comfortable now, less worried about making mistakes. She had learned which fork to use and how to pronounce the names of French dishes. "You look different," Ethan observed as they enjoyed their meal. "Different? How?" Olivia asked. "More confident," he said. "It suits you." The next day, Ethan had arranged for a personal shopping trip. A famous French designer welcomed them to her private studio, where she had prepared several outfits specifically for Olivia. "Ethan," Olivia whispered as the designer showed her the beautiful clothes. "I can't possibly accept all this." "I'm not trying to change you," Ethan assured her, sensing her concern. "I just want you to have clothes that make you feel as beautiful as I see you." The designer, hearing their conversation, approached with a gentle smile. "If I may," she said in accented English, "I designed these pieces to complement your natural style, not to transform it. The simplicity suits you." Looking at the clothes more carefully, Olivia realized they were indeed similar to what she might choose for herself, if she could afford designer prices. Simple, elegant dresses and comfortable yet stylish casual wear. Nothing flashy or revealing like what Heather and her friends wore. "Thank you," Olivia said, touched by the thoughtfulness. That afternoon, Ethan took her to the famous Shakespeare and Company bookstore. Olivia felt like she had walked into heaven, surrounded by books from floor to ceiling. As she explored the shelves, touching the spines reverently, Ethan watched her with a soft expression. "You really do love books," he said. "They've always been my escape," Olivia explained. "When I was younger and the other kids made fun of me for being quiet and awkward, books were my friends." Ethan reached out and tucked a strand of hair behind her ear. "I understand that. When my parents died, and I had to take over the company at 23, business books became my lifeline. They taught me how to survive in a world that was waiting for me to fail." It was the most personal thing he had ever shared with her. Olivia took his hand and squeezed it gently. "I didn't know your parents died so young. I'm sorry. It was a long time ago," Ethan said. "But it's why I built this shell around myself. The gray wolf persona protected me when I felt most vulnerable." They spent the rest of the day visiting more bookshops and walking along the Seine. Olivia was surprised by how comfortable she felt with Ethan now, how natural it seemed to walk hand in hand with him through the beautiful city. That evening, as they stood on the balcony of their hotel room watching the Eiffel Tower light up, Ethan's phone rang. He answered it with a frown, speaking quickly in business terms Olivia didn't understand. "I'm sorry," he said after hanging up. "There's a problem with the Taylor acquisition. I need to make some calls." "Of course," Olivia said, understanding that his work was important. She watched as he made several phone calls, his voice changing to the cold, commanding tone she had read about in business articles. This was the Ethan Gray the world knew, the ruthless CEO who never backed down. Yet when he saw her watching him, his expression softened immediately. It was like watching someone take off a mask. The contrast fascinated her. After finishing his calls, Ethan returned to the balcony. "Sorry about that. Where were we?" "You were about to tell me why you decided to talk to me that night at the banquet," Olivia said, gathering her courage to ask the question that had been on her mind for weeks. Ethan thought for a moment. When I saw you on that balcony, you looked authentic. In my world, everyone wears masks, including me. But you were just yourself. Nervous and a bit out of place, but not trying to be anyone else. He took her hand. Then when I heard those women mocking you, I saw something in your eyes. Not defeat, but a quiet dignity. It intrigued me. And now? Olivia asked softly. What intrigues you now? Everything about you, Ethan said simply. The way you light up when you talk about books. How you treat everyone with kindness, whether it's a waiter or a CEO. The fact that you've never once asked me for anything. He pulled her close, wrapping his arms around her. You're changing. Me, Olivia. My assistant says I'm less terrifying at board meetings. My employees aren't flinching when I walk by. Olivia laughed. Is that a good thing? I thought the scary wolf persona was working for you. It worked for business, Ethan admitted. But not for life. He kissed her gently. And thanks to you, I'm remembering there's more to life than business. As they stood there in the glow of the Eiffel Tower, Olivia realized something important. Ethan wasn't just spoiling her with trips and gifts. He was sharing his world with her, just as she had shared hers with him. And somehow, against all odds, their two very different worlds were beginning to fit together. 3 months had passed since the Paris trip. Olivia now split her time between her small apartment and Ethan's penthouse. Her life had changed in ways she never imagined, yet she had worked hard to stay true to herself. She still worked at the Yao library despite Ethan's offer to support her financially if she wanted to quit. I love my job, she had told him firmly. The money isn't important to me. Ethan had respected her decision, though he often sent lunch deliveries to the library staff or donated new books and equipment. The children's reading program Olivia had started was now fully funded, thanks to a generous, anonymous donation that Olivia knew came from Ethan. Today was an important day. Ethan's company was hosting its annual charity gala, and Olivia would be attending as his official date. The same event where they had first met was now causing her anxiety for different reasons. Everyone will be watching me, Olivia said as she tried on the dress Ethan had bought her for the occasion. It was a simple but elegant blue gown that matched her eyes perfectly. Let them watch, Ethan said, coming up behind her and wrapping his arms around her waist. You look beautiful. Olivia studied their reflection in the mirror. She had changed over these months, not in dramatic ways, but in small, meaningful ones. She stood straighter now, more confident. Her hair was styled in a way that framed her face nicely, and she had learned to apply light makeup that enhanced her natural features. But she was still Olivia, the same book-loving, kind-hearted woman she had always been. Ethan had changed too. He still commanded respect in the business world, but the cold cruelty that had earned him his wolf nickname had softened. His employees no longer trembled when he entered a room. Instead, they seemed to genuinely respect him rather than just fear him. Are you ready? Ethan asked, kissing her cheek. As ready as I'll ever be, Olivia replied with a small smile. The ballroom was just as magnificent as Olivia remembered from the first time. But now, instead of entering nervous and alone, she walked in on Ethan's arm, her head held high. People turned to look at them, some smiling, others whispering behind their hands. Ethan, wonderful to see you. A distinguished older man approached them. And this must be the young lady we've heard so much about. William, this is Olivia Mason, Ethan said proudly. Olivia, this is William Porter, my company's board chairman. It's a pleasure to meet you, Mr. Porter, Olivia said, shaking his hand. The pleasure is mine, William replied, studying her with interest. I must say you've brought about quite a change in our CEO here. The man actually smiled during our last board meeting. Nearly gave me a heart attack. Olivia laughed as Ethan rolled his eyes good-naturedly. They continued making their way through the crowd, with Ethan introducing her to business partners, employees, and friends. Olivia was surprised by how many people seemed genuinely happy to meet her. Ethan Gray with a smile on his face. Never thought I'd live to see it, one woman commented. Whatever you're doing, keep it up. As they approached the bar, Olivia spotted a familiar group of women. Heather and her friends were huddled together, watching her and Ethan with obvious envy. For a moment, Olivia felt a twinge of satisfaction, but it quickly faded. Their opinion didn't matter anymore. "Do you want to say hello to your cousin?" Ethan asked, noticing her gaze. Olivia hesitated, then nodded. "I should at least be polite." They walked over to the group, and Heather's eyes widened. "Olivia and Mr. Gray," she said, her voice overly sweet. "How lovely to see you both." "Hello, Heather," Olivia said calmly. "Nice to see you again." Madison and the other women barely hid their jealousy as they greeted Ethan with flirtatious smiles that he politely but firmly ignored. "Your dress is so simple," Madison commented, looking at Olivia's gown. "I would have expected something more flashy, given the circumstances." It was clearly meant as an insult, but Olivia just smiled. "I prefer elegant to flashy." "Olivia has excellent taste," Ethan added, his hand protectively at the small of her back. After a few minutes of strained conversation, they excused themselves and moved on. Olivia felt a weight lift from her shoulders as they walked away. "Handled that beautifully," Ethan murmured. "Much better than I would have at your age." "What would you have done?" Olivia asked curiously. "Something immature and regrettable," Ethan admitted with a grin. "I wasn't always the polished businessman you see today." As dinner was announced, they made their way to the main table at the front of the room. Olivia was nervous about being so visible, but Ethan squeezed her hand reassuringly. The evening progressed smoothly until coffee was served. Olivia excused herself to visit the restroom, and on her way back, she overheard a conversation that made her stop in her tracks. "It won't last," a man's voice said dismissively. "Gray is just going through a phase. Playing the white knight for some ordinary girl probably makes him feel good about himself. Once he gets bored, he'll move on to someone more suitable." "I agree," a woman replied. What could she possibly offer someone like him? She's a librarian, for God's sake. She probably doesn't even understand half of what his business involves. Olivia recognized the man's voice as Peter Walsh, one of Ethan's business rivals. She had met him briefly earlier in the evening and noticed the tension between him and Ethan. She was about to walk away when Peter added, "I bet he keeps her around as some sort of charity project. Makes him look good to the public." The cold-hearted CEO with a heart of gold. It's a clever PR move, I'll give him that. Something inside Olivia snapped. She took a deep breath and stepped around the corner, facing Peter Walsh and his companion. "Excuse me," she said, her voice steady despite her racing heart. "I couldn't help overhearing your conversation about me." Peter looked startled, then embarrassed. "Miss Mason, Let me save you the trouble of making excuses," Olivia cut in, surprising herself with her boldness. "You're right about one thing. I am a librarian. I love books and knowledge, which is why I know that judging people based on their job or social status says more about your character than theirs." The woman beside Peter looked uncomfortable, but Olivia wasn't finished. "As for not understanding, Ethan's business, you'd be surprised what I understand. I may not have an MBA, but I've read every report his company has published, and Ethan values my perspective precisely because I see things differently than the yes men he's surrounded." Fighter. Olivia noticed that a small crowd had gathered, including Ethan, who was watching her with a mix of surprise and pride. "And regarding your theory about me being a charity project," she continued, looking Peter directly in the eye, "perhaps you should consider that Ethan chose me not despite my ordinary background, but because of the authenticity it represents. Something that seems to be lacking in your circles, Mr. Walsh." A stunned silence followed her words. Then, to her surprise, someone started clapping. Others joined in, and soon there was a round of applause. Ethan walked over and took her hand, his eyes shining with admiration. "I couldn't have said it better myself," he said, loud enough for everyone to hear. Peter Walsh's face had turned red with embarrassment. He muttered an apology and quickly retreated with his companion. Later that evening, after most guests had left, Ethan led Olivia to the same balcony where they had first met. "You were amazing tonight," he said, taking both her hands in his. "I've never been prouder." "I surprised myself," Olivia admitted. 6 months ago, I would have run away crying if someone spoke about me like that. You've grown, Ethan said. Not because of the clothes or the experiences, but because you've discovered your own strength. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small velvet box. Olivia's heart skipped a beat as he got down on one knee. Olivia Mason, you walked into my life by accident and changed everything for the better. You saw the man behind the wolf, and your kindness helped me remember who I really am. He opened the box, revealing a beautiful but modest diamond ring that perfectly suited her style. Will you marry me? Tears filled Olivia's eyes as she nodded. Yes, she whispered. As Ethan slipped the ring on her finger and stood to kiss her, Olivia realized something important. He had never tried to turn her into a princess. He had simply recognized the queen she already was inside. And she hadn't tamed the wolf. She had simply reminded him of his heart. Together they had built something neither of them could have found alone. A love based not on wealth or status, but on seeing and accepting each other for exactly who they were.